Good morning. We're back to what's next. Today I am going to work on making a wooden mallet to use with my new chisel set. What I used in the past were just some really cheap freaking things that I did basic just construction stuff with. So it was a claw hammer and a chisel, and I just beat the shit out of them, and they're not in good shape. These are good quality chisels for somebody like me who is not doing super fine furniture or anything like that. I just got them. I still need to go through and sharpen them, because even brand new chisels don't come freaking very sharp, so you got to sharpen them. But anyways, I don't want to take a claw hammer and just beat the piss out of these things. So I'm going to make a nice wooden mallet that I can be relatively gentle with them. I'm going to put a soft leather face on it. I'm also going to make it a dead blow hammer. So I got these steel PVs here, so they also add a little bit of weight to it, so you don't have to freaking wail on it. Just the weight of the chisel can do the work. What we got is walnut and ash. Now it's not the freaking walnut from the same cutting, so I got different grain patterns, slightly different color patterns. But my idea is I am going to make the handle out of walnut, ash, walnut. And then the head will be ash, walnut, ash. So it'll have a nice freaking, I don't know what you call it, whatever. They'll look different, but the same. So I'm going to start by ripping this stuff down. I'm going to make the handle first. I ain't quite figured out my dimensions yet. So I'm going to go over to the table saw and set it up to this width so I can rip a strip out of this ash. Okay, we have all of our widths cut. So we have this piece right here. How long of a freaking head do I think if we do 6-inch mallet, yeah, we'll cut this at 6 inches. And that should be more than sufficient, I think. Yeah, 6 inches. We're going to go with 6 inches. As far as the handle goes, I want a decent amount of handle. So, how long is that? We'll just make it a straight up 1 foot. Let me go freaking cut the dimensions out on this here. Geez, I got my head cut off. Let me go cut all this shit to length. Alright. That's going to be the handle. We'll set that over there. And then that's going to be the freaking hammerhead. To make the hammerhead, what we got to do is figure out, let's find center on these guys right here. We only need to find center on one. Center sitting at, what is that, right at 3 inches? Okay. Of course, because we cut it at 6, so that would make sense. We need to make an opening inside of this thing. So let's go make sure we got a 2-inch channel through the center, because that's where we're going to have the handles come up through. And then we want to come in probably 3/4 of an inch from the ends. This is going to be 3.5 inches. Let's come in 3/4 of an inch from there. And we can cut that out. Yeah. So I don't know how well you can see that, but we're going to cut a hole there and a hole there. think I want to reduce them down just a hair. I think they're coming too close out to the outside right there. Yeah, I don't like that. We're just gonna eyeball this in here. We're gonna knock about that much off. About that much off. Now I need to drill a big freaking hole in these things, and then I can, what do you call it? Use the scroll saw and cut them boxes out. Alright, I got the wells all cut out. I didn't worry about squaring up the corners or anything like that. It doesn't freaking matter. You won't see it. It's all going to be glued together. So we're going to put glue on here, stick it down on there, glue on the next one, stick it down on there. We'll fill it with the BBs. We'll put glue on the top side. We'll stick that one down. We'll hold together with these quick clamps, and then we'll get out some stronger clamps to really squeeze her together. I want to try and keep the glue away from the center. I don't want a ton of freaking squeeze out in there to glue the BBs together. So naturally I got a shitload of glue on there. We'll squeeze it together and see if we can't clean some of that squeeze out. So we're going to go ahead and squeeze these layers together real quick. So we can get in here and try and clean out as much squeeze out as possible so we don't glue our goddamn bearings or BBs in place. I'm sure we're still going to have some squeeze out when we put the next layer on, but it'll minimize it because it'll be at the top and the BBs will be down in the bottom, so they shouldn't get any glue on them. Alright, that's probably good enough for government work right there. Where's my BBs? Where did I set? Oh, duh, they're right there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get them clamps off so I can set her down right here. Now we're going to that ought to be good. I want to keep a few BBs aside to use in the BB gun in case I need it. Don't want to skimp on the glue, but I don't overdo it either because I don't want to have glue running down on the inside. But you got to have a good layer. Alright, so now we'll set that guy on here. We'll squeeze her together with these quick clamps, and then we'll get out something a little bigger and more powerful that can Now we just gotta wait until it's dry, and that'll be next week because this is my Sunday. I go back fucking work tomorrow. Alright, enough for today. Not entirely certain what I was thinking when I was making it, other than like when I started assembling it and getting the sizing, it was like, that's not big enough. You're not gonna have any freaking weight to it. It's not gonna be effective. It's not gonna be a good hammer. But I needed a hammer to just tap on the end of a chisel to make it freaking do something other than just pushing, So it really probably doesn't need a whole lot more girth than like this goddamn screwdriver. Instead, I've got a 3-pound fucking dead blow mallet. I don't know why I made this. It's not what I set out to do. We're going to continue with it because I think it's going to be freaking cool when I'm done with it. But This thing is heavy. There is a lot of freaking shot in there, BBs. It's going to have a hefty freaking handle. So we're going to make this. We're going to make a nice freaking like Thor wooden mallet here. I already went and squared it up. I just took and ran it through my face planer and cleaned these sides up. And I got the typical freaking snipe that you get where it puts a little divot in it, which ain't a big deal. We'll freaking just sand that out. We'll run it over the belt sander. It'll remove that. And then we got the handle. I squared the ends up. That way we can chalk this up in my lathe. Now I've already kind of laid out a basic handle pattern. So let's get my Sharpie out right here. And what we're looking at is our head is going to be like that. So we need we're going to have a collar on there. And then we want to bring this down something roughly like that. This is the only critical freaking portion of the wood that matters. This is going to be the shank that's going to go through here. We're going to drill a 1-inch hole through that. So this has to be slightly less than a 1-inch hole. We don't want it to be exact because we're going to put resin in there. We're going to split this and we're going to use a wedge to extend it out to fit that. Now we want it to be close tolerance-wise, but not, we don't want to have to hammer this handle into the head to freaking make it fit. We want to use epoxy and a wedge. This is going to be the basics of our handle. So I'm going to go ahead and find the center of my blank here. We'll chuck that up in the lathe. Now the head. We have to find the center here. You know what? I got a center finder. Dun dun dun! Fucking center finder. That's the wrong side right there. Oh, what is that? No, that's the right side. Hey, my center finder doesn't find centers. How does that work? It does not work on a larger object like that, on rectangles. That's a square center finder. So we're just going to go, corner, corner. Alright, so right there, we're going to drill a 1-inch Forstner bit down through that. That's where our shank is going to go. We also want to shape this thing. I'm thinking we need to figure out some measurements here. How long is this? It is 5 3/4 inches. What we want to do, we're going to come in 1.5 inches on both sides. At the 1.5 inch mark, we are going to I gotta sharpen my pencil. And I just tripped over an airline going to my pressure pot and caused the pressure pot to fucking go all over the place. Hopefully, I didn't just screw everything up that's in there. Alright, so we got our angles here. So now what we want, how far in? We probably want to go in. Let's set this at 1 inch. Now let's go 3/4. Alright, I'm going to go over and fucking notch this out quick on my bandsaw. Alright, so we got it that way. Now we're going to wedge it this way. To do that, all we're going to do is we're just going to connect the dots. Corner of the ash, corner of the ash, and then we'll cut that out. Alright, there we go. That is, we're going to chamfer these edges. I think the next step we're going to drill this center out. You know what, I got to go and clean this up. Shit, hold on. Alright, so I should have freaking drilled this probably before I cut the chamfer in here. Whatever you the angle. Before I cut the angle. But I don't know if my mortise, or what do you call it, Forstner bit would have made it all the way through. With a cut like this, I know it'll go all the way through. And this is actually starting to look like a Dwarf frickin' forging hammer. So we can make some frickin' awesome, epic, legendary armor out of this with this thing. Right, so what I gotta do, I already found the center right here. We're gonna drill a hole through this. It's gonna be a 1 inch frickin' Forstner bit. And then we have to put a 45 chamfer on the rest of this. So I'm going to go drill this out, and then I'm going to set up the router table, and then we can shape this thing. Finish shaping this thing. Alright, so I think the hammerhead is done. Well, not done. I still got to frickin' sand it, because I've got all kinds of burn marks in that, because my bandsaw needs a new blade. I haven't gotten around to buying a new one. But it needs to be sanded, some little bit of refining, freaking shaping here, clean it up. Like I said, I should have drilled the center hole prior to shaping it, because what happened is I had a significant freaking blowout right here. It just took a huge chunk of wood out. That's not a big deal. That will be the portion of the handle, or the head, that will made into here. You'll never see it. With this dimension, now that I know this dimension is going to have to be reduced down some, which is fine. When we turn it, we just got to make sure that my collar right here is small enough to go into right here. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think this is fucking cool as shit. This is going to be like a cool dwarven fucking smacking hammer. Alright, I'm going to go put this in the lathe, and I'll start turning this. Alright, so here's the freaking hammerhead. Here's the handle. I got the handle all turned down. This piece down here, this is going to get removed. You know, I still need that to have it supported in the lathe, because I'm going to put it back in the lathe and sand it on the lathe. It's a lot easier. It's got pretty much the right freaking grip to it, and the shank up here fits freaking perfect. It's got just enough freaking movement to it that I will be able to put resin in here and have enough of a gap that the resin can get in there and seal it. And then we will split this. We're going to cut this off flush right here, of course, and then we will split the shank, and then we're going to drive a wedge down in there. I'll probably make a wedge out of the ash, and we'll drive it down in there, spread it out, and that'll hold the hammerhead in. And it's like, how freaking cool dwarvenish is that? It's like, that's like straight out of freaking Warhammer right there. It's got a hell of a heft to it with all them BBs in there. But the shank, you know, when I turned the shank, all I did in order to get that exactly right is just a caliper. This was my grandpa's. He bought this back in the early 50s, so we're looking at, this thing's about 70 years old. I mean, it's old enough, there is no metrics on here, it's all standard. And I just put that over top of the Forstner bit that I used to drill that out. And then as I turned it, just kept periodically checking until it fit the whole length of it. So it was just taking my time and just gradually taking off, little at a time, until it fit frickin' nice and perfect just like that. So I got the sanding done. Now it's ready for final assembly. Now the sanding, I probably could stand to sand like a lot more, but I just can't. My hands frickin' hurt. My arthritis is just frickin' killing me. Hand sanding all these different facets on here. And since it's gonna be a hammer, hell, oh well, if I still show a little scratch here and there on it, I can live with it. So now what we're going to do, since the shank of the handle sticks out so far, we're going to mark it off just proud of the top of the hammer, cut it off, and then I'm going to split it right down the center. We're going to cover it in glue, and I've got this little tiny piece of ash scrap that I ground down on the belt sander into a wedge, and we'll hammer that down in there. We'll let it dry, then we'll sand this off smooth. So I'm going to go over, you know what, let me mark this first. Sure I got it in the, alright. So I'm going to cut off that line, and then I'm going to run a cut all the way down the length of that, and then we'll wedge it. I got a piece of leather here. I'm use that to kind of help protect her when we drive this frickin' wedge down in there. Make sure I got my handle where I want it. Where's my damn handle? There it is. Alright, that freaking tightened her up nice. Now we'll just wipe off all the excess glue. Alright. Let this dry overnight, and then we can sand this area off down smooth. And then I'm going to put 3 coats of polyurethane on there. I got Minwax oil-based high gloss. So after I get this sanded down, I get the polyurethane on there. Then I'll show you what it's like when it's all done. Alright. Urethane's on. My maraca is done. This is not at all what I intended it to be. It was supposed to be a way smaller, just little frickin' tap and hammer for using on my new chisels. This is not my new chisel, by the way. And I don't know, the proportions got out of hand. I guess this is what happens when you don't work from a set of plans, come up with an idea down on paper and work off of that. This is just kind of, it just formed over time as I was starting to make it. It's like, you know what, there's not enough freaking weight to it. There's no way that amount of wood's gonna freaking, be able to do what I wanted to do. So it just kept getting freaking out of hand and a little bigger. But it's alright. It's not what was in my head initially, but I love it. I love how it turned out to be such a dwarven style freaking mallet from World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings or whatever. I've got several freaking World of Warcraft wars. I don't really play hardly at all anymore. And the only dwarf that I ever really played a lot of was my priest, Holy Moly. She was an actual healer class, not a goat muncher shadow spec. Ooh, I'm going to roll up the healer class and I'm going to go DPS. It's asinine. But anyways, I am completely freaking happy with this. I got a couple of screws in the wall. It's going to live up here right behind me. way, anytime well, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it, because it's actually a lot bigger and unwieldy for what I intended it. I guess it'll still beat on the back of a freaking chisel alright, though. But for now, that's its home. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye!